Welcome to Spooky Songcast. I'm your host, Kristen Ford. Today our subject concerns ghosts. Where does creativity come from? Where does inspired songwriting come from? Where does an inspired performance come from? Is it the artist? Can their ego take full credit for what exists? Or is it possible that it's a channeled experience? Perhaps from the other side comes the inspiration, perhaps from people who have already lived and breathed, maybe in the same exact space you are living and breathing in now. They may still have something to say. And how do you feel about being used is the wrong word, but open to such ghostly influence? I once played a theater in Indianapolis called the Irving that is supposedly haunted. And I was open to that. I was looking around. I was trying to see some poltergeist, trying to feel the room get cold or whatever's supposed to happen when there's ghosts. And I really didn't experience that at all, but it was sort of a songwriter night, so I played my set and then I sat down and watched somebody else play, and their set was so beautiful, and I could just hear these cellos and these strings, even though it was just two people with acoustic guitars. I could just hear it all over the track. It was almost like it was there in the room with us. When we, at the time, it was sort of hip to have a CD and you'd trade CDs with the other acts. Later I listened to their music, and they had put cello on that song. So I wonder, were the ghosts of the Irving Theater jamming out only for me to hear? Was it in this theater or was it in my head? One may never know. Let's head back in time just a little bit to Goshen, Massachusetts, located in the deep woods of Western Mass. There is a couple barns and a house built in 1816. On acres and acres of woods. And there, my mentor, June Millington, and her partner, Anne, bought this property and turned it into a rock and roll camp. They also had sometimes different songwriters come and stay and house sit for them if they should have to go and travel. And Diana Jones is one of those songwriters who was house sitting there, and in the kitchen, she came up with some ideas of a song and was using words and phrases that were super old-timey and were not from her own vocabulary, and yet there they were as she was writing the song. They just popped out. Well, I've spent many years at this rock camp from the age of 15 through my mid-20s, really, and they slowly have been making expansions to the property and improvements from just living in the house and having the barn being a little one-room, old-timey barn to extending the barn. And I never knew if there could be maybe something under the foundation of the new expansion, or if something happened in that original barn that the spirits aren't quite ready to let it go. But either way, when I've slept in the barn, they have bunk beds and stuff, I've experienced this sleep paralysis demon, and I do not like it. I do not like waking up, not being able to move, not being able to scream, knowing that I'm awake, having no control of my body, but having this feeling of something oppressing me, pressing down. And you can come up with whatever kind of scientific terms you want for that, but if I sleep in the house, if I sleep out in one of their yurts, no problems. Take a nap in the barn, boom, demon sleep paralysis. So, my ass does not rest in the barn. Unfortunately, there's lots of good stuff to be done in the barn. There's a recording studio, there's lots of rehearsal space, there's space for writing, there's space to do your thing. It's a wonderful space. And I think I was about maybe 19, and I was at a rock and roll camp for girls. Oh, I already said it was a rock camp. But this one was the recording session. And I'm an overachiever. A lot of people try to get like one song out of their week, maybe two. And I think I was working on an EP or an album. I was just trying to crank out the songs. I also feel super inspired at night. I'm a creature of the night. What can I say? So I was working on a track. I was in the barn at 2 or 3 a.m. It was dark. It was quiet. Nobody was there. And because they were always expanding to this studio in this barn, and technology is always changing. They went from reel-to-reel tape to ADAT to mini disc recorder to Pro Tools to, constantly upgrading, but perhaps having older pieces of equipment that they weren't sure what they were going to do with yet, sell them, refurbish them, turn it into a museum. Who knows? With creatives, you might have a lot of stuff around. So anyway, there was the room of the barn where I was, with the Pro Tools setup and the computer where I was working on a mix. And then there's the back room where there were a bunch of old ADAT machines and radios and things that were not plugged in. That part of the barn wasn't even wired for power yet. And I'm in there alone, and all of a sudden, I hear static on the radio, loud, and 20 radios scanning the dials, moving, turning. There was nobody else in there. There was nothing plugged in. I heard that. I felt the chill. I felt the temperature in the room drop. Goosebumps rising on my arms. The hair on the back of my neck standing up. And I said, Kristen Ford, get the fuck out of here now. So, I hit Apple S. You gotta save. I powered down the recording equipment in the correct order, and then I ran my ass out of that barn. Later, when I told people what happened, they said, yeah, no big deal. We know there's ghosts here. They're all friendly. We can see hundreds of naked spirits running the hills just wanting us to create good music. And I said, okay, that's not reassuring to me at all. I was walking with the ghost. I said, please don't insist.